Let's just look at the hard facts for a second. Let's examine the ice caps as just one example. Nobody else is ever willing to make these observations, but lucky for you, I'm not nobody. We've all seen those very sad, emotional blackmail videos and ads on TV of the ice caps melting and the poor polar bears losing their homes, like this one right here from National Geographic in 2017. Heart-wrenching video, starving polar bear on iceless land. Now just listen to that sad music. They really want you to know that the blood of these poor polar bears is on your hands. And bear in mind, this is the most viewed video on National Geographic's website ever. But before we all go mad with guilt at how we murdered this majestic animal, let's look at this article from a year later from National Geographic by the actual woman who made this video. Starving polar bear photographer recalls what went wrong. Photographer Paul Nicklin and I are on a mission to capture images that communicate the urgency of climate change. Documenting its effects on wildlife hasn't been easy. With this image, we thought we had found a way to help people imagine what the future of climate change might look like. We were perhaps naive. The picture went viral and people took it literally. So you show us a picture of a polar bear who is emaciated and starving and then tell us, quote, "This is what climate change looks like," and then somehow that's our fault for taking it literally, is it? What other conclusion were people realistically to come to? Perhaps we made a mistake in not telling the full story, that we were looking for a picture that foretold the future and that we didn't know what had happened to this particular polar bear. I can't say that this bear was starving because of climate change, but I do know that polar bears rely on a platform of sea ice from which to hunt. So basically, you have no idea why he was starving. His teeth could have been broken from a fight, he could have had some illness, or he could have just been old, he could have been suffering from some degenerative disease. You really haven't a clue, but apparently National Geographic was happy to slap the climate change logo on this one and call it a day because it confirms what they already believe. So are polar bears dying in their droves? Well, let's investigate. Here's a document from the World Wildlife Fund called Polar Bears at Risk. This was published in May of 2002, which is now 19 years ago. So bear that in mind if you'll pardon the pun. The world population, estimated at 22,000 bears, is made up of 20 relatively distinct populations. Reductions in the extent of the thickness of sea ice has led the IUCN Polar Bear Specialist Group to describe climate change as one of the major threats facing polar bears today. So according to the World Wildlife Fund, in 2002 there were 22,000 polar bears in the world. So after almost 2 decades of brutal climate change, how many are there today? Well, according to themselves, anywhere between 22,000 and 31,000. So in other words, the polar bear population has at worst either stayed the same over 20 years or possibly grown by as much as 9,000. And that's currently available on their website right now. This is all freely available information. I didn't have to break into Area 51 or Fort Knox and steal a top secret dossier to get my hands on this stuff. It's all linked below in the description so you can make your own investigations. But have you ever heard one of these organizations publish a retraction or admit they got it wrong? Well, of course not. They'll keep the myth going until the wheels fall off. It all just gets swept under the rug. And what's more, according to the Inuit peoples of Canada, as in the people who actually live in the Arctic, the Eskimos, they say that polar bear numbers are surging to such an extent that it actually poses a threat